The massive alien ship entered Earth's orbit silently. It was bigger than anything humans had ever built, stretching nearly 5 miles from end to end. Its dark metal hull absorbed sunlight rather than reflecting it, making it look like a hole in space. Captain Eliza Bennett stood on the roof of the United Nations building in New York, staring up at the sky with binoculars. Even though it was midday, she could see the outline of the ship blocking out stars that shouldn't be visible. "Status report," she said into her radio. "All defense systems ready, Captain," replied Lieutenant Greg Nelson from the command center, below. "But if those readings are correct, our weapons would be like throwing rocks at a tank." Eliza lowered her binoculars and took a deep breath. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Today, they got their answer. "The President is asking for updates," said Greg through the radio. "Tell him we're maintaining position and awaiting contact," Eliza replied. "No aggressive moves." 3 hours later, smaller ships began to descend from the main vessel. They looked like smooth teardrops gliding down without any visible engines or exhaust. 5 of them landed in Central Park, where the military had cleared a 3-mile safety zone. Eliza led a team of 12 people toward the ships. 6 were soldiers, though their weapons remained holstered. The others were scientists, diplomats, and language experts. They stopped 100 yards from the nearest alien ship. A seam appeared in the side of the teardrop, widening into a doorway. 3 tall figures stepped out. They had 4 arms each and skin that shifted colors like oil. On water, their heads were narrow with 3 black eyes arranged in a triangle pattern. "Hold position," Eliza whispered to her team. One of the aliens stepped forward. It wore what looked like armor made of interlocking plates that moved as it walked. It raised its upper right arm, palm out. "We are the Galactic Hegemony," it said in perfect English. "I am Ambassador Kralthak. We have been observing your world for some time." The translation team looked at each other in shock. The aliens had clearly studied human languages. "I am Captain Eliza Bennett of the Earth Defense Force," Eliza said, stepping forward. "On behalf of humanity, I welcome you to Earth." Ambassador Kralthak's skin rippled with blue patterns. "Your species shows promise. The hegemony rules 10,000 star systems. We bring order and advancement to developing worlds like yours." Over the next week, meetings were held between Earth's leaders and the alien representatives. The hegemony offered technology beyond human understanding, cures for diseases, clean energy systems, even limited space travel capabilities. In exchange, they requested access to Earth's water, minerals, and permission to establish bases on Earth and its moon. Most world leaders were eager to accept. A few remained cautious. At the North American Research Division, analyst Kevin Rogers worked late into the night. Something about the aliens' language patterns bothered him. He ran the recordings of their speeches through specialized software, looking for hidden messages or patterns. "There's something here," he muttered to himself as the computer highlighted subtle frequency shifts in the alien transmissions. Kevin called his supervisor, Dr. Lisa Freeman, who arrived 20 minutes later looking tired. "This better be good, Rogers," she said, setting down her coffee. "Look at this," Kevin said, pointing to his screen. "They're sending encrypted data bursts during their speeches. I've been working to decode them. And they're not what they claim to be." Kevin pulled up a partial translation. "They keep using words like harvest and processing when referring to Earth. And look at this. They classify us as a servant race, suitable for basic labor and resource extraction." Dr. Freeman's face went pale. "Are you certain?" 90% confident. "The hegemony isn't here to help us, they're here to conquer us." The next morning, Dr. Freeman and Kevin presented their findings to a closed session of the Security Council. Captain Bennett was there, listening with growing anger. "We need more proof before we make accusations," said General Harris, tapping his fingers on the table. "These aliens could destroy our cities from orbit. We already have their technology. Samples," Eliza said. "Let's take a closer look at what they've actually given us." A team of scientists worked for 48 hours straight, examining the medical devices the hegemony had provided. What they found confirmed Kevin's suspicions. The devices contained hidden components that would map human genetic structures and transmit the data back to the alien ships. "They're studying us," Kevin explained, "looking for weaknesses, learning how to control us." 3 days later, the hegemony requested a summit with all world leaders at the United Nations. Ambassador Kralthak would present the final treaty for Earth to join the galactic hegemony. Captain Bennett convinced security to double their protocols. She positioned her most trusted soldiers throughout the building. The summit began with Ambassador Kralthak speaking about a bright future for humanity among the stars. Halfway through his speech, Eliza noticed the alien skin changing to a deep purple pattern she hadn't seen before. Suddenly, her earpiece crackled with Kevin's voice. "Captain, energy spike from the ambassador's position. It's some kind of..." The explosion ripped through the center of the assembly hall. Chaos erupted as smoke filled the room. Eliza dove behind a pillar as strange energy beams cut through the air, striking world leaders. "Defensive positions," she shouted into her radio. "Get the survivors out now." Through the smoke, she saw the ambassador and his aides transforming. Their diplomatic robes melted away, revealing combat armor. More aliens poured in from outside, weapons firing. Eliza drew her sidearm and fired at the nearest alien. The bullet bounced off some kind of energy field. She adjusted her aim, targeting what looked like a control device on its belt. This time the alien stumbled when hit. "Go for their belt devices," she called to her team. Fighting their way through the building, Eliza's team managed to evacuate several wounded leaders. As they reached the emergency exit, the building shook violently. Looking up, they saw more alien ships descending from the main vessel. "This was never a diplomatic mission," Eliza said, helping the injured president of Brazil into an armored vehicle. "It was an invasion plan." As they sped away, Kevin contacted her from the research facility. "Captain, I've got something," he said, his voice urgent. "Before communications went down, I downloaded part of their tactical database. They think we're primitive, but they've never faced humans before, and I found weaknesses in their systems." Eliza watched as alien ships began positioning themselves over major cities worldwide. "Send everything you have to all military commands," she said. "The real fight starts now." Above them, the hegemony ships prepared for what they expected to be a simple conquest. They had no idea what they had just started, or what humanity would do when pushed to the edge of extinction. 6 months passed since the failed peace summit. The skies over Earth were no longer blue. They were filled with the dark shapes of hegemony warships. Most major cities lay in ruins after the initial attacks. The aliens had expected humans to surrender quickly. They were wrong. Colonel Alan Franklin crouched behind the broken wall of what used to be a bank in downtown Chicago. His uniform was torn and dirty, but the determination in his eyes burned bright. Next to him, 20 soldiers waited for his signal. They carried a mix of human weapons and modified alien technology. "They're coming," whispered Sergeant Maria Cooper, pointing down the street. "Standard patrol pattern." Alan nodded. The hegemony forces always followed the same procedures. They never adapted. That was their weakness. "Remember the plan," he told his team. "Draw them into the trap, then hit them from all sides." A group of 8 aliens marched down the street. They wore full body armor and carried energy weapons. Their movements were precise and confident. They had no reason to fear the primitive humans. Maria fired a single shot. It didn't hit anything, but it got the aliens' attention. The patrol immediately turned and moved toward the sound. Alan smiled. So predictable. The aliens followed Maria's trail of strategic retreats, moving deeper into the ruined city. They didn't notice the soldiers hiding in the buildings around them. They didn't see the traps set in their path. When the patrol reached the old plaza, Alan pressed a button on his wrist device. Explosive charges hidden in the surrounding buildings detonated simultaneously. The aliens were thrown off balance as concrete and metal rained down. Before they could recover, Alan's team opened fire from multiple positions. 3 aliens fell immediately. The others tried to activate their shield technology, but something was wrong. Their equipment wasn't working properly. "The jammers are working," Alan shouted. Push forward! The human soldiers emerged from their hiding spots, firing continuously. The remaining aliens tried to retreat, but they were surrounded. Within minutes, the entire patrol was eliminated. Collect their weapons. And tech, Alan ordered. Dr. Harrington will want to study the new armor variants. 200 miles away in an underground facility beneath the ruins of a university, Dr. Nicole Harrington worked tirelessly. Her laboratory was filled with alien technology in various stages of disassembly. Screens displayed complex formulas and diagrams. A team of scientists worked around the clock trying to understand the advanced technology of their enemy. Nicole rubbed her tired eyes. She hadn't slept properly in days, but she was close to a breakthrough. The quantum frequency patterns are the key, she explained to her assistant, Paul Wilson. The hegemony uses them for everything: communications, weapons, shields. And if we can decode them? Paul asked. If we can decode them, we can disrupt them, Nicole said, her eyes lighting up with excitement. We could intercept their communications, falsify orders, disable their weapons remotely. A soldier rushed into the lab. Dr. Harrington, we just received a shipment from Colonel Franklin's team in Chicago. They managed to capture intact communication devices from a patrol. Nicole's hands shook with excitement as she examined the alien technology. This was exactly what she needed to complete her work. Get me more coffee, she told Paul. We're not stopping until we crack this. 3 days later, Nicole's team achieved their first major breakthrough. They successfully intercepted a hegemony communication signal. The message was from a command ship to ground forces, ordering an attack on a refugee camp near the old Canadian border. We need to warn them, Nicole said urgently. There's more we can do, said Paul, typing rapidly on his keyboard. We can send a false response, make them think the order was received and executed without sending troops. Nicole stared at him for a moment, then smiled. Yes, and we can do even better than that. Together, they crafted a fake mission report, claiming the refugee camp was empty when the patrol arrived. They matched the aliens' communication style perfectly and sent it using the captured technology. The response came quickly. Acknowledged. Return to base for reassignment. It worked, Paul exclaimed, giving Nicole a high five. This is just the beginning, she said. Now we need to get this technology to all resistance cells. Meanwhile, in what remained of San Francisco, Ambassador Richard Chen met secretly with an unusual ally. The alien sitting across from him was not from the hegemony. It belonged to a species called the Zentari, one of many races conquered by the hegemony centuries ago. Your resistance has surprised the hegemony, the Zentari said in a whispery voice. No species has fought back so effectively in thousands of years. We're just getting started, Richard replied. But we need allies. Information. There must be others who hate the hegemony as much as we do. The Zentari's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. There are many. The hegemony rules through fear and superior technology. If you can prove they can be defeated, we're working on that, Richard said. We've already adapted some of their technology. Our scientists are making breakthroughs every day. The hegemony has grown complacent, the Zentari said. They have not faced a serious challenge in millennia. They do not know how to respond to your unpredictability. Richard leaned forward. Tell me about their weaknesses, their command, structure, how they respond to failure. As the Zentari shared valuable intelligence, resistance fighters around the world continued to strike at hegemony forces. Each attack was carefully planned. Each victory, no matter how small, provided more captured technology for Dr. Harrington's team. In orbit, the hegemony command ship received concerning reports. The subjugation of Earth was taking much longer than expected. Casualties were mounting. Equipment was being lost at an unacceptable rate. Commander Zixval paced the bridge nervously. This was supposed to be a routine conquest, a quick victory to add to his record. Instead, it was becoming an embarrassment. Send more troops, he ordered his subordinates. Double the patrols. Use the heavy weapons platforms. These humans must be taught their place. What the commander didn't realize was that Nicole's team was intercepting his communications. For every new tactic the hegemony deployed, the human resistance was already preparing a counter. 1 year after the invasion began, Colonel Franklin stood before a gathering of resistance leaders from around the world. Maps showed hegemony positions and human strongholds. They expected us to behave like their other conquests, he told the assembled group. To surrender when faced with superior technology and overwhelming force. But that's not what humans do. Nicole stepped forward. We've spent our entire history adapting and overcoming. Now we're turning their own technology against them, and they don't know how to handle it. A cheer went up from the crowd. For the first time since the invasion began, there was real hope. The hegemony had made a terrible mistake. They had attacked a species that refused to be conquered, and humanity was just getting started. 1 year into what the hegemony had called a minor pacification effort, their commanders faced an unexpected crisis. Earth had not fallen. Instead, human resistance was growing stronger each day. Fleet Commander Jada Wright sat in the war room of the captured battlecruiser they had renamed Defiant. The ship had been taken during a daring raid on a hegemony repair dock in orbit. Now it served as humanity's first space-based command center. Jada studied the captured hegemony tactical manual displayed on the screen before her. Her dark hair was cut short for practicality, and a scar ran across her left cheek from an early battle. They've been conquering the same way for millennia, she told the officers gathered around the table. They've forgotten how to innovate. Major, Peter Collins nodded in agreement. Their battle formations haven't changed once since the invasion began. They still send in ground troops in groups of 8, even though we target that pattern specifically. Their arrogance is our advantage, said Jada. They believe their technology makes them unbeatable. They can't understand why we haven't surrendered. The door to the war room slid open. Dr. Nicole Harrington entered, looking exhausted but excited. She carried a small device that pulsed with blue light. It works, she announced. We've successfully reverse-engineered their FTL communication system. The room fell silent. This was a breakthrough they had been working toward for months. Are you sure? Asked Jada. Nicole nodded. We tested it by sending a message to our allies on the Zentari homeworld. They received it instantly and responded. We can now communicate across star systems without the hegemony detecting us. This development changed everything. Until now, the resistance had been limited to Earth. With FTL communications, they could coordinate with other species who suffered under hegemony rule. There's more, Nicole continued. The principles behind their FTL communications are similar to their FTL travel technology. We're close to understanding how their ships travel between stars. Jada's eyes widened. How close? We could have a prototype ready in 3 months. The officers looked at each other in amazement. If humans could build their own FTL ships, they could take the fight to the hegemony. Meanwhile, in the hidden shipyards beneath the surface of Earth's moon, construction was already underway on humanity's first starship. Engineers and scientists worked around the clock, combining human ingenuity with adapted alien technology. The ship was smaller than hegemony vessels but designed with human priorities in mind: speed, maneuverability, and stealth. They named it Humanity's Hope. Captain Marcus Reynolds walked through the half-completed corridors of the ship. At 45, he had been a naval officer before the invasion. Now he would command humanity's first FTL vessel. How's the progress? He asked Chief Engineer Sophia Diaz, who was working on an open panel of circuitry. We're ahead of schedule, she replied, wiping sweat from her forehead. The Zentari engineers provided insights that saved us months of work. The drive system is nearly complete, Marcus nodded approvingly. And the weapons? Better than we hoped. We've improved the efficiency of the hegemony energy weapons by 30%. They never pushed their technology to its limits. We are. On Earth, the hegemony launched a major offensive against the human stronghold in the Rocky Mountains. They sent hundreds of troops and heavy weapons platforms, expecting to crush the resistance base. Major William Parker watched from his command post as the alien forces approached. Unlike previous commanders, he didn't look worried. He waited until the enemy forces were halfway up the mountain pass. "Now," he said calmly into his radio. Hillsides that had appeared solid suddenly opened, revealing hidden weapon emplacements. Advanced energy cannons, built from captured hegemony technology but modified by human engineers, fired in perfect synchronization. The first wave of alien troops was decimated before they could respond. The heavy platforms tried to return fire, but their targeting systems were being jammed by technology Dr. Harrington's team had developed. "Second phase," ordered Major Parker. Squads of human soldiers emerged from concealed bunkers, wearing armor that combined hegemony materials with human design improvements. They moved with a coordination the aliens had never seen from humans before. The hegemony forces tried to call for reinforcements, but their communications were being intercepted and blocked. For the first time, they experienced the confusion and fear they had inflicted on countless other species. By the time the battle ended, the humans had captured 3 intact hegemony ships and dozens of weapons platforms. It was the largest single victory for humanity since the war began. In high orbit, aboard the hegemony command ship Inevitable Conquest, Supreme Commander Zixval received the reports with growing alarm. He had been sent to replace the previous commander, who had failed to subjugate this supposedly primitive world. "Impossible," he muttered, reading the casualty figures. "How could simple humans defeat our elite forces?" His second-in-command approached cautiously. "Supreme Commander, the High Council is demanding an explanation for our continued failure." Zixval's skin darkened with anger. "Tell them we face unexpected resistance. These humans, they learn too quickly. They adapt our technology and turn it against us. The Council has ordered a new classification for humanity," the second-in-command said, his voice trembling slightly. "They are now designated as an extreme caution, extinction-level threat." This classification had only been used 3 times in the hegemony's 10,000-year history. Each time, the species in question had been completely eliminated to protect the Empire. "Prepare the orbital bombardment fleet," Zixval ordered. "If we cannot conquer this world, we will destroy it." What the hegemony didn't know was that Nicole's team was intercepting all their communications. Within hours, every human resistance cell knew about the planned bombardment. 3 days later, as the hegemony positioned their planet-killer weapons in orbit, they faced something unprecedented, a coordinated attack from both ground-based weapons and ships rising from Earth's surface. The humanity's Hope made its first combat flight, leading a squadron of smaller craft that had been built in secret facilities around the world. Captain Reynolds stood on the bridge, watching as his crew operated technology that no human had controlled just a year ago. "Target their primary weapon platforms," he ordered. "Don't let them get into position." The human ships moved with unpredictable patterns that confused hegemony targeting systems. They struck with precision, disabling key enemy vessels before they could power up their planet killers. On the hegemony command ship, Zixval watched in horror as his carefully planned bombardment fell into chaos. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. "How do they have ships? How do they know our plans?" No one had an answer for him. No species had ever challenged the hegemony this way. No conquered world had ever fought back so effectively. For the first time in its long existence, the galactic hegemony faced an enemy that wasn't just resisting, but winning. 3 years had passed since first contact. The hegemony no longer viewed Earth as an easy conquest. After their failed attempt to destroy the planet, the aliens had withdrawn to regroup. This gave humanity valuable time to prepare for the next phase of the war. The humanity's Hope drifted silently in the shadow of a gas giant. Captain Marcus Reynolds stood on the bridge watching the stars through the view screen. His ship had traveled farther from Earth than any human vessel in history. "Status report," he said to his executive officer, Lisa Chen. "All systems normal," she replied. "The cloaking technology is working perfectly. Hegemony patrols have passed within 10,000 kilometers twice now without detecting us." Marcus nodded with satisfaction. "And our passengers?" Ambassador Garcia and the Zentari delegates are ready for their meeting. They seem nervous but determined. This mission was perhaps the most important since the war began. After successfully defending Earth, humanity had decided to reach out to other species oppressed by the hegemony. The humanity's hope carried diplomats and scientists to a secret gathering of potential allies. The ship moved cautiously toward a small, rocky moon that orbited the gas giant. Sensors showed artificial structures hidden beneath the surface. As they approached, a message flashed on the communications screen, a set of landing coordinates. "Take us in," Marcus ordered. "Maintain stealth protocols until we're inside their hangar." The humanity's hope descended through a camouflaged opening in the moon's surface. Inside was a vast underground base. Ships of various designs were docked in separate bays. Some looked sleek and advanced, others appeared old and battle-damaged. All belonged to species who had suffered under hegemony rule. Ambassador Elena Garcia led the human delegation off the ship. She was a former United Nations diplomat who had lost her family during the initial invasion. Her determination to see the hegemony defeated was matched only by her skill at building alliances. Representatives from 7 different alien species waited to greet them. The Zentari were there, tall, 4-armed beings with color-shifting skin. Beside them stood the Norvans, who resembled large, upright felines. The Mithril were short, stocky beings with metallic scales. The others were species humans had never encountered before. "We welcome you, people of Earth," said the Zentari Supreme Elder, bowing slightly. "Your resistance against the hegemony has given hope to many who had none." Elena bowed in return. "We come seeking allies. The hegemony can be defeated, but not by one species alone." The meeting took place in a large circular chamber. Each species shared their experiences under hegemony rule. Some had been conquered centuries ago, others more recently. All had been classified as servant races, forced to provide resources and labor to their oppressors. "For 10,000 years the hegemony has expanded without meaningful resistance," said a Norvan commander, her fur bristling with anger. "They believe their technological superiority makes them invincible." "But technology means nothing without innovation," Elena replied. "The hegemony has grown complacent. They haven't faced a real challenge in millennia." She activated a holographic display showing Earth's defensive systems and the modifications humans had made to captured hegemony technology. "In 3 years, we've adapted their weapons to be 30% more efficient. We've improved their shield technology. We've even enhanced their FTL drives." The alien representatives studied the display with growing interest. "How have you achieved so much in so little time?" asked the Mithril leader. Dr. Samuel Johnson, Earth's chief scientist for the mission, stepped forward. "Humans have always been adaptable. Throughout our history, we've faced challenges that forced us to innovate or perish. When the hegemony attacked us, they awakened something in our species, a determination to not just survive but to win. For 3 days, the delegates discussed strategy, shared technology, and planned joint operations. By the end, they had formed what they called the Freedom Coalition, the first multi-species alliance created specifically to challenge hegemony rule. As the meetings concluded, the humanity's hope prepared to return to Earth with representatives from each species. They would establish a coalition command center in the underground facilities on Luna. But before they could depart, alarm sirens blared throughout the base. "Hegemony battle fleet detected entering the system," announced a Zentari officer. "Multiple warships, including a dreadnought." Marcus rushed to his ship's bridge. "How did they find this place? It's been hidden for decades." "Unknown, Captain," Lisa replied, checking the sensor readings. "But they're moving directly toward this moon. They know we're here." The coalition representatives quickly returned to their ships. They had planned for this possibility. Each vessel would take a different escape route, making it harder for the hegemony to capture them all. "We'll provide cover," Marcus told the other captains. "The humanity's hope has the best weapons and shields in the coalition. We'll draw their attention while you escape." As the other ships prepared to leave, the Zentari Supreme Elder approached Elena and Dr. Johnson. "In 10,000 years, no species has ever driven the hegemony back," he said solemnly. "How do your people fight with such determination?" "We fight hardest when protecting others. Elena replied simply. The Humanity's Hope launched first, accelerating quickly toward the approaching hegemony fleet. Marcus ordered all weapons powered up and shields at maximum. Target their lead ship, he told his weapons officer. Let's show them what humans can do. The battle that followed was unlike anything the hegemony had experienced before. The human ship moved with unpredictable patterns, its enhanced weapons penetrating alien shields with surprising effectiveness. Marcus coordinated with the other coalition ships, creating a complex escape pattern that confused hegemony targeting systems. One by one, the alien vessels slipped away, jumping to FTL and disappearing from the system. The Humanity's Hope took damage during the battle. A hegemony energy beam penetrated their shields, damaging one of the engine sections. But they gave as good as they got, disabling 2 enemy cruisers and damaging the dreadnought itself. Once all coalition ships had escaped, Marcus ordered his own retreat. Emergency jump to contingency coordinates, he commanded. Let's get back to Earth with our allies. The Humanity's Hope vanished into FTL space just as the hegemony dreadnought fired its main weapon. The energy beam passed through empty space where the human ship had been moments before. On the hegemony command vessel, Fleet Admiral Kralthak watched in fury as his prey escaped. Impossible, he growled. One ship against our entire battle group and they still escaped. His second-in-command approached carefully. Admiral, we've identified the vessel. It was human-built but using modified hegemony technology. They've improved our own designs. Kralthak's skin darkened with rage. These humans must be eliminated. They are spreading rebellion throughout our territory. Prepare a message to the High Council. We need reinforcements. What the Admiral didn't know was that the battle had been a tremendous victory for the Coalition. Not only had they established their alliance, but they had also proven that even a single human ship could challenge an entire hegemony battle group and survive. As the Humanity's Hope traveled back to Earth, carrying representatives from 7 alien species, hope spread throughout the galaxy. For the first time in 10,000 years, the hegemony faced an enemy they couldn't easily defeat, and that enemy was growing stronger every day. 5 years had passed since the hegemony arrived at Earth expecting an easy conquest. Now they faced complete collapse. The Freedom Coalition, led by humanity, had grown to include dozens of formerly subjugated species. Each brought unique abilities and technologies to the alliance, all united by a common goal, the end of hegemony rule. Admiral Sofia Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the Liberator, Earth's most advanced warship. At 52, she had been leading coalition fleets for 2 years. Her gray-streaked hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her uniform bore the combined insignia of Earth and the Coalition. The view screen showed hundreds of ships gathered around her. Some were human-built, others belonged to their alien allies. All had been improved with technologies developed by the Coalition's shared research teams. All ships report ready, Admiral, said her communications officer. Sophia nodded. Transmit to all vessels. Operation Freedom begins now. This was the moment they had been planning for years. The assault on Zorax Prime, the hegemony throne world. Intelligence gathered by Coalition spies indicated that the hegemony High Council had gathered there to plan a final, desperate attack on Earth and other rebellious worlds. The Coalition fleet jumped to FTL in perfect synchronization, using improved drive systems that Dr. Harrington's team had developed. The journey to the hegemony core systems would take just 12 hours, far faster than the hegemony's own ships could travel. On Earth, President Ryan Clark addressed the United Nations. 5 years of war had changed the planet. Cities were being rebuilt. Former enemies now worked together against a common threat. Humanity had united as never before. Today our forces, alongside our allies, strike at the heart of the hegemony, he said. Not for conquest or revenge, but to free countless worlds from oppression. This war was not of our choosing, but we will finish it. The Coalition fleet emerged from FTL at the edge of the Zorax system. Immediately, hegemony defense stations detected them and sounded alarms. But the response was slow and disorganized. After thousands of years without serious opposition, the hegemony had grown complacent. they never imagined an enemy could reach. Their home system. First wave, advance, Sophia ordered. Disable their orbital defenses. Second wave, stand by to target military installations on the surface. The battle began with the coalition ships moving in formations the hegemony had never seen before. Years of fighting together had created a force that combined the best tactics from a dozen different species. Human adaptability, Centauri precision, Norvan aggression, and Mithril resilience all complemented each other perfectly. On the hegemony command station, Grand Admiral Kralthak watched in horror as his defenses crumbled. He was the same officer who had led the first contact mission to Earth 5 years earlier. Now he faced the consequences of that fateful decision. How did they get past our border fleets? He demanded. How did they even find Zorax? His officers had no answers. The coalition had moved too quickly, struck too precisely. Within hours, the orbital defenses around the throne world were disabled or destroyed. Coalition ships established positions around the planet, targeting key military facilities, but carefully avoiding civilian areas. Transmit our demands, Sophia ordered. The Hegemony High Council must surrender themselves to stand trial for crimes against sentient beings. All Hegemony forces must stand down immediately. The response came quickly. Grand Admiral Kralthak requested a face-to-face meeting with human representatives. He would come alone in an unarmed shuttle. Ambassador Jason Miller was selected to meet with the Admiral. As one of Earth's most experienced diplomats, he had helped forge many of the alliances that made the coalition possible. He waited in a conference room aboard the Liberator as the Hegemony shuttle docked. Grand Admiral Kralthak entered the room, his once proud bearing now diminished. His skin, which had once shifted with bright, confident patterns, now showed dull colors of defeat. You could have been a servant race, he said bitterly to Jason. Now you have destroyed a 10,000-year empire. Jason regarded the alien with steady eyes. We would rather die on our feet than live on our knees. That's something your empire never understood about us. The Admiral's skin darkened. Why have you not bombarded our cities? Why have you spared our civilians? We would not have shown you such mercy. That's the difference between us, Jason replied. We're fighting to end oppression, not to become oppressors ourselves. The hegemony as you know it is finished, but your people can have a future as equals, not rulers. After 3 days of negotiations, the Hegemony High Council surrendered. Coalition forces landed on Zorax Prime and other core worlds. As they secured hegemony facilities, they discovered the true extent of the Empire's crimes. Species enslaved, worlds stripped of resources, cultures destroyed over thousands of years of tyrannical rule. Each revelation strengthened the Coalition's resolve to create a different kind of interstellar community. Under human leadership, plans were made for a galactic assembly where all species would have equal representation. 6 months after the fall of Zorax Prime, representatives from over 100 worlds gathered on Earth for the first meeting of the Assembly. The Great Hall had been built in what was once a battlefield during the initial invasion. Now it symbolized a new beginning. Ambassador Miller addressed the gathered delegates. Behind him stood leaders from all coalition species, a living testament to the power of cooperation across differences. Humanity doesn't seek an empire, he told them. We seek partners. Together we have ended 10,000 years of oppression. Together we will build something better. His expression grew more serious. But let this also be a lesson to remember. Should anyone ever again attempt to subjugate others as the hegemony did, they will face humanity's fury, and we offer only one warning. Run. The assembly hall erupted in applause. Representatives from worlds that had known only oppression for centuries now looked toward a future of freedom and cooperation. On the rebuilt streets of New York, a Centauri visitor asked a human child why her species had fought so hard, not just for themselves but for others. My mom says humans can't stand seeing bullies win, the child replied simply. When we see someone hurting others, we have to do something about it. This simple truth spread throughout the galaxy. Humans were capable of incredible compassion and equally incredible ferocity when defending the innocent. They had a saying that now echoed across the stars. The only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. Humanity had done something, and the galaxy would never be the same. In the decades that followed, Earth became the center of a new interstellar community. Ships from hundreds of worlds visited daily, bringing trade, knowledge, and friendship. Children of different species played together in parks that had once been battlefields. Scientists shared discoveries that improved life for all. And if sometimes the older humans looked up at the stars with a certain steel in their eyes, remembering the war and what they had sacrificed, it was only to ensure that such sacrifices would never be needed again. The hegemony had made one crucial mistake. They had judged humanity by their technology, not by their spirit. They had expected an easy conquest, and found instead an enemy who would change the very foundations of galactic civilization. They had learned, too late, what it meant to face humanity's fury.